On 5 News, the government's surprising response to the NHS crisis. Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt tells 5 News patients should be worried about attending some hospitals, and junior doctors tell us why.
I'm really worried about what might happen in the future, and the worst case scenario is missing that sick child because you haven't got round to seeing them yet.
So what is the government doing about it? Also tonight, tackling the stigma around mental health.
It would make me look weak to my friends.
You start blaming yourself because you think it's your fault that you have such a condition.
The Prime Minister unveils new plans to support young people better. Stations closed, roads in gridlock, pavements packed as strikes bring misery for millions of commuters. The killer big chill that's engulfing Europe, with temperatures here set to plummet. And it's a great night for the Brits at the Golden Globes, but why it wasn't so much fun for Donald Trump. Hello and welcome to 5 News. I'm Sian Williams. The Health Secretary has admitted to 5 News that there are very serious problems within some hospitals in England and that patients there have reasons to be worried. Jeremy Hunt's comments come after the Red Cross said the health service faced a humanitarian crisis. He's dismissed that, saying the issues affect only a limited number of hospitals and that he would be happy for members of his family to be admitted to the majority of them. He spoke to our health correspondent, Catherine Jones.
Treatment on a trolley. This was Colchester's A&E last week. Staff and patients feeling the strain the NHS is under firsthand.
It's as bad as I've ever seen it in my career.
It's continuous pressure that's going on at the moment.
I'll happily pay a bit more tax. It means I'm going to be not staying in the corridor.
The Red Cross now claims a humanitarian crisis in our hospitals. At one, Worcestershire Royal, the deaths of 2 patients who spent hours waiting for a bed are under investigation, and 7 other trusts were so stretched in December they went to the highest level of alert, making them unable to deliver comprehensive care. Today, I asked the Health Secretary if he'd be happy to see a member of his family sent to a hospital under that level of pressure.
I would be happy to send a member of my family to the vast majority of NHS hospitals.
But not one on high level of alert?
Well, the ones, all hospitals have periods where the pressure gets higher. What we've seen over this Christmas period is a few hospitals which have had very sustained and difficult problems, particularly Worcestershire, but a number of others. Most hospitals are actually coping slightly better than last year, but we have got some examples where they've got real problems, and we're doing everything we can to sort them out.
In the meanwhile, the patients going to those hospitals should worry.
Yes, but I mean, in the case of Worcestershire, for example, we put that trust into special measures. The chief executive's gone. We've hired a new chief executive who's actually coming in from Australia. And we are working night and day to try and turn things around in that hospital. But this is the most difficult time of year, always has been, and that's why there are particular pressures.
It's the staff that soak up that pressure shift after shift. But this paediatrician is haunted by the thought that lives are at risk every day.
It was taking up to 2 hours to unload an ambulance with a sick patient into the emergency department, despite being right there. The sickness is also affecting doctors. Our colleagues on the night shift weren't able to come in, and one of my colleagues ended up staying 19 hours just to make sure ends meet. I'm really worried about what might happen in the future, and the worst case scenario is missing that sick child because you haven't got round to seeing them yet.
Most hospitals are coping with the pressure, but for those that aren't, tonight the Health Secretary announced a series of emergency measures to help them, including parachuting GPs into A&E and allowing hospital clinics and operations to be cancelled. It's a clear government acknowledgement. The current situation is unacceptable. Catherine Jones, 5 News.
Well, one of the biggest issues facing our health service is mental illness. Today, the Prime Minister announced new measures designed to tackle what she called a hidden injustice that destroys lives. And the issue really is more common than you might imagine. At any one time, an estimated 1 in 4 of us have some form of mental health problem. In England, 13 people take their own lives every day. Many more attempt suicide, and it often starts young. Around half of mental health problems begin to develop by the age of just 14. Our chief correspondent, Tessa Chapman, has been to hear the thoughts of pupils at a sixth form in northwest London.
Using their minds to study is one thing. Talking about how healthy those minds are is quite another.
Yes, definitely. Generally, I think there's still an air of stigma around mental health, especially in comparison to physical health.
Would these A-level students at St Dominic's sixth form feel as comfortable discussing depression as a broken ankle?
I just think that it would make me look weak to my friends, and that would mean I might get insulted or made fun of for it. And I think that's a fear that a lot of young people have, and people in general have.
Say it is the flu or a sprained ankle, you know that after a couple of weeks, a few days, you'll feel better. But with the mental health disorder, it can take years, months, we don't know how long. And then you start blaming yourself because you think it's your fault that you have such a condition.
Today, the Prime Minister said it's time to transform how we treat it.
For too long, mental illness has been something of a hidden injustice in our country, shrouded in a completely unacceptable stigma and dangerously disregarded as a secondary issue to physical health.
So what is she going to do? First, there'll be a major review of young people's mental health services. Schools and colleges will work more closely with NHS services. And there will be mental health first aid courses for secondary school staff to spot signs and give early help. Nikki welcomes the ideas, but is worried there's no new money pledged for already stretched services. Her mental health problems weren't picked up until she was 14. By then, she'd already tried to kill herself many times.
I think we should be talking about mental health, like from primary school, but secondary school, that's a step forward. There's nothing at the moment, so this is, amazing if it happens. Like I've been saying for a long time, there needs to be more prevention, and this would work as prevention.
Our students agree, but echo charities' concerns that there must be funding at the sharp end too. What is clear is that mental health might be difficult to talk about, but it is now part of our conversation. Tessa Chapman, 5 News.
We discovered a little more about Theresa May's plans for Brexit today. As part of that speech on social reform, she said leaving the European Union provided an opportunity to fundamentally change Britain for the better. Well, the pound fell to a 2-month low this morning following comments the Prime Minister made at the weekend that the UK could not be expected to quit the EU and keep bits of its membership. Let's talk now to our political editor, Andy Bell, who joins us from Downing Street tonight. Andy, what did we glean today?
Yes, the pound took a hammering against the euro and the dollar because people interpreted remarks by the Prime Minister yesterday as essentially saying that Britain would definitely leave the European single market, what's known as a hard Brexit. But Theresa May was very keen to say that people shouldn't guess about what the outcome of the negotiation would be, shouldn't guess about what her negotiating strategy would be. This is what she had to say today.
I don't accept the terms hard and soft Brexit. What we're doing is going to get an ambitious, good, best possible deal for the United Kingdom in terms, as I say, of trading with and operating within the single European market. But it will be a new relationship because we won't be members of the EU any longer.
Theresa May speaking earlier. Andy, as we go on air, big political developments happening in Northern Ireland. What's going on?
Yes, another headache for Number 10. This evening, Martin McGuinness of Sinn Féin, the Deputy First Minister of Northern Ireland for the last 10 years, has resigned. Now, he's resigned in protest at the fact that the First Minister, the unionist Arlene Foster, has not resigned. She's been under a lot of pressure because of allegations that she's been involved in what's been described as a scandal whereby taxpayers' money, perhaps £500 million of taxpayers' money, has been used for a renewable energy subsidy. People like Martin McGuinness wanted Arlene Foster to resign. When she did not resign, he has resigned instead. But this evening, speaking, Martin McGuinness made it clear that as well as that particular issue over those energy subsidies, relations between the two big parties in Northern Ireland have turned sour.
We in Sinn Féin will not tolerate the arrogance of Arlene Foster and the DUP. Sinn Féin wants equality and respect for everyone, and that's what this process must be about.
So now we're expecting new elections to the Northern Ireland Assembly, and after that, presumably some attempt to put together a new power-sharing agreement between the Democratic Unionists and Sinn Féin.
Andy, thanks for that. The girlfriend of an RAF serviceman who's been missing for more than 3 months has revealed she's expecting his child. 23-year-old Corrie McKeague was last seen in the early hours of September the 24th while on a night out in Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk. His girlfriend, April Oliver, says she found out she was pregnant 2 weeks later.
I've had to make a massive decision by myself. I mean, I was hoping and praying that we'd find out some information, that he would come home so that we could make the decision together. We had conversations about children and what we'd wanted in the past, and it was something that I hoped that he would be here to help me make the decision, but unfortunately he isn't.
In the past few minutes, Tesco has announced plans to make 1,000 people redundant. The jobs will go as part of a shake-up at the supermarket's distribution network. And Rolf Harris has watched via video link as jurors were selected for his sexual abuse trial. The 86-year-old has been allowed not to attend the trial in person because of his age and health. He denies 8 charges involving women and girls, one of whom was under the age of 13. Millions of people trying to get around London are enduring a day of misery because of a strike by workers on the London Underground. With the tube shut, this morning's rush hour saw gridlocked roads, packed buses and queues stretching over long distances. While today it was the capital, over the coming weeks there's a possibility of transport strikes right around the country. Olivia Kinsley reports.
This is what it looks like when a city of nearly 9 million people is stopped in its tracks. Passengers waited patiently for trains they had no hope of getting onto. But there were reports of pushing, shoving and even fights breaking out at bus stops. One mainline station was evacuated after it became dangerously overcrowded.
I've had to wait half hour for a bus, then fight the people who just walked up to get past them.
It was horrendous. I'm coming from Brighton. Luckily today some trains are running, but tubes are not.
It's just too much basically. Just too much, and it's got to stop, something's got to be sorted out.
Today's strike is the result of a long-running dispute over staff cuts and ticket office closures. The unions say that having fewer staff in control rooms is affecting passenger safety, but London Underground says it has to save money in order to stop the price of tickets rising. The tube action today begins a wave of planned strikes that could bring not just the capital but much of the country to a standstill. Tomorrow, British Airways cabin crew walk out for 2 days in a dispute over pay, and Southern Trains begin 3 more days of strikes in South East England. The RMT is balloting its members tomorrow on possible action on Arriva Rail North, and in the months ahead the introduction of new trains on the Merseyrail and West Midlands networks could lead to union action. One business expert told us it couldn't be coming at a worse time.
Since the referendum, uncertainty has hung over business like Clyde. What industrial relations breakdowns contribute to is more deep uncertainty. Bosses will be worried about workers coming to work. Workers will be worried about whether or not their firm's going to survive. This all matters.
Tonight in the capital, many are beginning their long trudge home. For many more all over the country, it's a snapshot of what's to come. Olivia Kinsley, 5 News.
Coming up on 5 News, the freezing weather that's hitting Europe and how we could be affected soon too. And the Brits who reigned over the Golden Globes. We'll see you after the break. Hello and welcome back. You're watching 5 News. A spell of freezing weather that's sweeping across Europe is now known to have claimed at least 25 lives. The Arctic blast has sent temperatures plummeting as low as -30 Celsius in the coldest places, while countries as far south as Greece and Italy have been blanketed by heavy snow. Layla Hayes reports.
This is Amatrice, now blanketed in snow. The Italian town reduced to rubble in last summer's earthquake. Many of the ruins now covered with snow and ice after the coldest weather in central Italy for more than 20 years. The south of the country has also had heavy snowfall and dangerously cold conditions. In Rome, the fountains in St. Peter's Square are now frozen. The city's homeless do what they can to stay warm. In Greece, conditions for migrants on the island of Lesbos are even more deadly. Their tents thick with snow, they have no heating. The Arctic blast has swept across Europe. This is the River Danube in the Hungarian capital Budapest. In Bosnia, temperatures have fallen to minus 22 degrees. Here in Sarajevo, the river has completely frozen over. Turkey has been hit hard too, with treacherous conditions on the roads and hundreds of flights delayed or cancelled. In Istanbul, some tried to carry on as normal. Others were finding it a struggle. So far, the UK has escaped the severe weather, but that could soon change.
The cold air kicks in from Wednesday onwards, and the source of this air, the Canadian Arctic. So different from the Siberian blast we're seeing across Greece and southeastern parts of Europe at the moment.
In Bulgaria, residents do what they can to clear the snow, but some are making the most. The icy temperatures have already swept across Europe, and these Arctic conditions could soon be coming our way. Leila Hayes, 5 News.
Well, we saw 5's weather forecaster Claire Nazir there. She's back with a full weather report for you at the end of the programme. As many as 10,000 car owners are taking part in mass legal action against Volkswagen over its emissions scandal, and that number could rise significantly. VW is being sued for cheating tests to make out that some vehicles were cleaner than they really are. Danny Sinhar's with me now. Danny, how significant is this?
Well, this is the first time that we've seen legal action taking place against Volkswagen here in the UK. Now, the upshot of that is, if successful, it could cost the car manufacturer billions of pounds in compensation. This all goes back to that original car emissions rigging scandal back in 2015. Back then, Volkswagen admitted that thousands of its diesel vehicles in the United States were fitted with a bit of software that effectively cheated the amount of poisonous gases that were emitted. Those cars were recalled, and there were big lawsuits in the United States, so much so that Volkswagen ended up forking out £15 billion in compensation. So I guess what the thinking is, well, could something similar be done here in the UK? And we have been speaking to one of the lawyers who's been heading up that case.
The potential scale of this is large, in that there are 1.2 million vehicles affected. Those vehicles will have changed hands, some of them because this started in 2009. So frankly, we don't know just how many potential claimants there may be.
Now, Volkswagen say they will robustly defend themselves in this case. So to date, around 10,000 owners or previous owners say they're willing to sue Volkswagen. And of course, that number could rise. In fact, lawyers inviting others to come forward tonight. But ultimately, it will be the High Court who will decide if there is a case to be heard. And that will happen at the end of the month.
Danny, thank you. The Golden Globes are usually the first chance of the year to champion the best of the big screen. And this year, the awards came for the musical comedy La La Land, as well as an array of British talent. The talking point, though, came from Meryl Streep, who used her acceptance speech for an emotional attack on Donald Trump, who promptly hit back by calling her overrated. Millie Stevenson has more.
Now for celebrity folk, it was back to work, the red carpet at the Golden Globes. But forget film, it was the winner of a certain election last year who dominated. Yes, President-elect Trump got many mentions.
Meryl Streep.
Most notably from the godmother of film, Meryl Streep. As the 3 times Oscar winner was awarded for a lifetime on the screen, it was an appearance Donald Trump had made during his campaign when he impersonated a disabled reporter that Meryl wanted to talk about.
It was that moment when the person asking to sit in the most respected seat in our country imitated a disabled reporter, someone he outranked in privilege, power, and the capacity to fight back. It kind of broke my heart when I saw it, and I still can't get it out of my head because it wasn't in a movie, it was real life.
This was the moment in question at a rally last year.
I don't remember!
Donald Trump decided to fight back on Twitter, tweeting, "Meryl Streep, one of the most overrated actresses in Hollywood, doesn't know me but attacked last night at the Golden Globes. She is a Hillary flunky who lost big." It was also a great night for our Brits abroad. The winners are chosen by the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. So winner of Best Supporting Actor for The Night Manager, Hugh Laurie, played politics too.
I'll be able to say I won this at the last ever Golden Globes. I don't mean to be gloomy. It's just that it has the words Hollywood, foreign and press in the title. I just don't know what.
Tom Hiddleston, The Night Manager.
The BBC series The Night Manager won 3 acting awards, including Best TV Actor for Tom Hiddleston. And Brit Claire Foy was awarded for her role as the Queen in the Netflix series The Crown. But it was Hollywood film La La Land which took home the most amount of shiny statues, winning 7. It not only broke the record for the most Golden Globes won, but critics say it's the perfect antidote to doom and gloom.
This beautiful, sweet, romantic, uplifting storyline, which is exactly what we needed at the end of 2016. It just comes together in a way that the artist did, and it deserves and will do extremely well now at the Oscars.
La La Land, some light relief on a night when politics played a leading role. Minnie Stevenson, 5 News.
Well, before we go, Matt's joined us to tell us what's coming up on 5 News tonight and more on the Golden Globes
More
and that
Globes.
Twitter storm.
Exactly, we're going to be chatting about the British successes as well, Sean. But yeah, Donald Trump's Twitter response to Meryl Streep, to put it kindly. Also, the government may have dismissed claims the NHS is facing a humanitarian crisis, as the Red Cross says, but I'll be hearing from a doctor who is on the front line. Also, as Europe freezes, we'll be finding out just how cold things could get here without weather coming from Canada.
Lovely. Look forward to that. Thank you very much, Matt. See you later. That is it for now. Claire Nazir has the all-important weather for you next. I'll see you again tomorrow at 5. Matt, of course, back at 6:30. Thanks for watching tonight. Bye for now.